The year is 1241. Europe faces its greatest threat, the mighty Mongol army. As their horses thunder across the plains, a single event changes everything. Let's explore how close Europe came to becoming part of history's largest empire. The Mongol army was unlike anything Europe had seen before. These skilled horsemen could shoot arrows with deadly accuracy while riding at full speed, a tactic that left their enemies helpless. Their army moved fast, using a network of speedy messengers to coordinate attacks across huge distances. By 1241, they had already taken over lands from China to Russia. Their leader Batu Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan, led 130,000 warriors westward. They crushed armies in Poland and Hungary like they were nothing. The Mongols' special battle plans worked perfectly in the open plains of Eastern Europe. They would pretend to retreat, then turn around and surround their confused enemies. European knights, with their heavy armor and strict battle formations, simply couldn't keep up with these fast, flexible warriors. Just as the Mongols seemed ready to take over all of Europe, something unexpected happened that changed everything. In December 1241, Ögedei Khan, the supreme ruler of the Mongol Empire, died suddenly at his capital in Karakorum. Following Mongol tradition, all princes had to return home to choose a new leader. Batu Khan, who was leading the European invasion, had no choice but to turn his army around and head back east. This twist of fate literally saved Europe. The timing couldn't have been more dramatic. European kingdoms were in no shape to stop the Mongol advance. Their armies were beaten, their defenses broken. If Ögedei had lived just a few more months, the Mongols might have reached the Atlantic Ocean. A single death changed the course of history, sparing Western Europe from becoming part of the Mongol Empire. Let's imagine how different European cities might have looked if the Mongols had stayed. Instead of Gothic cathedrals reaching to the sky, we might have seen the round tents called gurs dotting city squares. The Mongols were actually quite open to different cultures and religions, so they probably would have mixed their style with local European architecture. Markets would have been much bigger, selling goods from across their huge empire: Chinese silk next to French wine, Persian carpets beside German tools. The Mongols were really good at organizing trade and mail systems. They might have connected European cities with their famous Yam system, a network of supply stations that helped people and goods move quickly across their empire. European castles might have become less about thick walls and more about speed and mobility, matching the Mongol way of fighting. Cities would have been more spread out, with lots of open spaces for horses, the Mongols' most prized possession. The Mongols would have completely changed how Europeans fought wars. While European armies relied on heavily armored knights and castle sieges, the Mongols brought game-changing military technology. They used gunpowder weapons they learned about from China, including early bombs and primitive rockets. Their famous composite bows, made from layers of wood, horn and sinew, could shoot arrows twice as far as European bows. The Mongols also had clever engineering tricks. They built bridges super fast using inflated animal skins, and their siege weapons could be taken apart and moved quickly. But perhaps their biggest advantage was their military communication system. Using flags, smoke signals, and a network of fast messengers, Mongol commanders could coordinate large armies with amazing speed. European armies would have had to adapt or be left behind. The Mongols were masters at creating vast trading networks, and if they had conquered Europe, they would have transformed its economy completely. European cities would have become major stops on an expanded Silk Road, stretching from London to Beijing. Merchants would have traveled safely along protected trade routes, carrying exotic spices, fine textiles, and new technologies. Venice and other port cities would have connected sea routes with land-based Mongol trading posts. The Mongols' organized system of passports and rest stations would have made travel between Paris and Karakorum as smooth as going between neighboring towns. They would have introduced paper money from China, making trade easier than using heavy gold coins. Local European craftsmen would have learned techniques from Persian, Chinese, and Arab artisans, creating amazing new styles of art and architecture. The mixing of Mongol and European styles would have created some amazing new forms of art and architecture. Imagine Gothic cathedrals decorated with the flowing patterns of Mongol art, or town squares where pointed church spires stood next to beautiful domed structures. The Mongols loved bright colors and detailed patterns. They might have added vibrant blue tiles and golden decorations to Europe's grey stone buildings. European painters would have learned new techniques from Asian artists, combining local religious themes with the dynamic movement style of Mongol art. We might have seen prayer books decorated with both Christian saints and traditional Mongol designs. The Mongols were big fans of public spaces and gardens, so European cities might have gotten more parks and open areas. They also brought new crafts with them wherever they went. European artisans would have learned to work with materials like lacquer and new types of metal. The Mongols had a surprising approach to religion that could have reshaped medieval Christianity. While Europeans were fighting religious wars, the Mongols allowed all faiths to practice freely in their empire. They believed that all prayers, regardless of religion, brought divine favor to their rule. In Europe, this could have meant Catholic churches standing next to Buddhist temples and Islamic mosques. Christian priests might have shared ideas with Buddhist monks and Islamic scholars, creating new ways of thinking about faith. The Mongols often held religious debates at their courts, where different faith leaders could discuss their beliefs openly. This openness might have prevented some of Europe's religious conflicts and changed how the Catholic Church dealt with other beliefs. Instead of fighting over differences, European Christians might have learned to accept multiple faiths, leading to a very different religious landscape than what we know today. The question of how Mongol rule might have affected Europe's Renaissance is fascinating. Under the Mongols, Europe would have gained earlier access to Chinese innovations like advanced printing methods, better compass technology, and new mathematical concepts. The Mongols were excellent at spreading knowledge across their empire. They could have brought European scholars face to face with ideas from Persia, India, and China centuries earlier than actually happened. Paper-making technology would have spread faster, making books cheaper and more common. But there's a flip side. The unique European university system might not have developed in the same way. The independent city-states of Italy, which sparked the Renaissance, would have been part of a larger empire instead. Still, the Mongols' practice of moving artists and scholars around their empire could have created exciting new combinations of Eastern and Western thinking. A Mongol-ruled Europe would have transformed the way people spoke and wrote. The Mongols would have brought their practice of using multiple official languages to Europe, just like they did in China and Persia. Imagine French merchants learning Mongolian trade terms, while Mongol officials picked up Latin phrases. Common words for things like paper, silk, and caravan would have entered European languages much earlier. The Mongol system of clear, practical writing for official documents might have simplified the fancy writing styles used in European courts. European alphabets might have borrowed shapes from Mongolian script, creating new hybrid writing systems. Local languages would have survived, but with a rich mix of borrowed words from across the empire. The way Europeans wrote numbers might have changed too, with Chinese and Arabic counting systems spreading more quickly through Mongol trade networks. If the Mongols had stayed in Europe, our modern world would look completely different. Trade between Europe and Asia would have started centuries earlier, possibly leading to earlier global connections. Instead of waiting for Columbus, Europeans might have already known about different continents through Mongol networks. Technologies like gunpowder and printing would have spread faster, maybe starting the Industrial Revolution sooner. European countries as we know them might not exist. Instead, we might see regions shaped by ancient Mongol administrative zones. The Renaissance might have happened differently, mixing Eastern and Western ideas in new ways. Modern languages would include many more Asian words, and our food would have different spices and ingredients. Cities would be designed differently, possibly with more focus on open spaces and efficient transport. Even our modern political systems might be different, perhaps less focused on national borders and more on connections between regions. Thanks for joining me on this journey through one of history's biggest what-if moments. The Mongols nearly changed Europe forever, and now you know how close it came. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to explore more fascinating historical stories.